to The Hypnotist, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. Brought to you by the hypnotherapist demanded by celebrities, CEOs, and even royalty, Adam Cox. These recordings took place live from Adam's clinic in London's world-famous Harley Street. So, get yourself comfortable and enjoy today's episode of The Hypnotist.
Hi, it's Adam here, and you're about to listen to a hypnosis session all about getting over a past relationship. Now, it doesn't matter if a past relationship was 4 days ago, 4 weeks ago, or even 4 years ago. What really makes a difference is not how long ago it was, but the emotional attachment and the type of thinking that goes on. And for a lot of people that are still trying to get over a previous relationship, quite often they will take a first-person perspective when they go back to memories. So memories that might have been weeks or months ago, they're reliving them. And then there's a feeling of contrasting those relived memories with the present, which feels very different. And that might link to a feeling of loss or frustration or a contrast if they were joyful moments, feeling unhappy in contrast. All of this is very natural, but it doesn't have to take a long time. Some people can end a relationship on one day, and as far as they're concerned, the moment that relationship is over, it's over. And it's almost like it happened, but it doesn't emotionally affect them in the present. And that doesn't mean that these people are robots or they don't have emotions. It just means that there is a way of thinking about the relationship which enables them to move on quickly. Other people might reminisce and get nostalgic and connect to certain emotions again and again. And sometimes the breakup can mirror the grief cycle, where there's an element of bargaining of, if only I didn't say that, I should never have done that, and almost like replaying history to see if that would have changed things. But the purpose of that is not to punish yourself or even to change the past. It's to extract wisdom that might be useful for the future. And not just for a future relationship. It might be that there are things that you can refine and evolve in you that have nothing to do with a relationship, but just enhance the quality of your life. There might be certain characteristics, or the client I was working with, for example, very quick to come to a judgment, to come to a conclusion without gathering all the information first. That's excellent wisdom to extract from that relationship. It doesn't necessarily mean that that can only be applied in a future relationship. Seeing the shades of grey, seeing the nuance, taking an element of empathy and other people's perspective is all very useful refinements anyway, to make them more compassionate, understanding, and be able to connect in a real way. There's a bit going on here, but at its core, this involves an element of submodalities of really putting the past behind them, not just metaphorically, but shifting the location of that, to use parts therapy to acknowledge that there was a positive intention behind this constant thinking of the relationship without needing to be attached to it, and then creating a compelling vision of the future where they imagined themselves improving as a result of this relationship, but also that they are receptive and open to a relationship if the right relationship comes along. You might resonate or connect with some of these suggestions, not necessarily all of them, because it was created for an individual client with individual circumstances. Ignore any suggestions that aren't quite right. Lean into the ones that are. And if you do like the idea of a bespoke session, curated and collated and tailored exactly to you and your situation, there will be a link in the description where you can schedule a completely free consultation call. For now, though, find a quiet, comfortable place where you won't be distracted or disturbed. Relax and enjoy the session. Take a deep breath in and as you breathe in that resourceful feeling of calm and relaxation. Breathing in relaxation, and as you exhale, feel that wonderful feeling of release, as if any tension, stress, or worries are just starting to leave your body every time you exhale. That's it. And now take a slow breath in through the nose and gently exhale, this time through the mouth. And again, breathing in calm and breathing out anything you no longer need to carry. With each breath, your body remembers how to relax. And in doing so, your shoulders loosen, your jaw relaxes, and your mind doesn't need to do any hard work right now. Nothing to fix, nothing to analyze, just allowing yourself to be here, to be fully present. And as your body settles, your mind can drift and wander comfortably, naturally, into that receptive, reflective state. And I want you to hold perhaps an image, a name, an idea of that past relationship, but place it somewhere behind you, not close and not overwhelming, simply behind. Because I know you've been reliving that relationship, playing out all of the what ifs. What if I did that? I should have done that. But that means it's still in the present or in front. So place any words, images, memories behind you. You're not inside it, and you're certainly not reliving it. I want you to feel that you are observing it from a place of safety, perspective, and time. And you've done that before. Something happened way, way back, and you could think about it knowing that it is in your past. And the point of thinking about it is not to change the past, but to change the future. So when you think of that relationship all the way back behind you in your past, notice something feels different. When you are no longer in an experience, it empowers you to learn from it. So gently bring your attention inward now. Maybe the pace, the rhythm of your breathing, a subtle pulse or heartbeat. And as you bring the intention inwards, I want you to notice that somewhere inside you is a part of you that keeps thinking about that past relationship. And it's not because it wants pain. I think it's because it wants clarity, safety, and meaning. And And what if this part believed that holding on might protect you, might help you understand, might prevent future hurt? I want you to get a sense that the point of a regret is not to punish, not as a tool to judge yourself, but as a way that you can extract the value of that regret, to make refinements, adjustments within you. So acknowledge that part that has been thinking back with kindness rather than judgment. You don't need to judge that part. You can empathize with it. And imagine acknowledging and then saying to that part, "Thank you for trying to help." Understand that it has positive intention, and then scan for a different part, because somewhere else inside you is a part that is ready to move forward, a part that wants peace, openness, fun, emotional freedom. And this new part knows that your future deserves your energy more than your past. And both parts have wonderful intentions. And what if they simply need an update? I want you to imagine stepping into the role of your wisest self, all-knowing. Some people would call it the superconsciousness, the higher self. But just know it as your wisest part, the version of you that has grown through reflection, time, and insight. Imagine speaking through the voice of your wiser self. And from this part, you can communicate to both parts, to the part holding on to the past. You were right to seek understanding. And now the understanding is complete. And to that part ready to move forward, you don't need to reject the past to be free of it. It's possible to carry wisdom without carrying weight, shame, or judgment. Perhaps you can already notice how both parts begin to relax, because the role, the job has changed. And now allow the lessons of the past to surface. You already know what they are. To be less judgmental, to not to jump to conclusions. So allow those lessons to bubble up to the surface, not as criticism and not as regrets, but as quiet, integrated wisdom. You learned that life is not black and white. You learned that it's layered, contextual, human, every possible shade of grey. And you learn to be more flexible, more trusting, and more willing to give the benefit of the doubt. And maybe you learned that empathy creates understanding, and that understanding creates connection. And what if you learned that jumping to conclusions narrows reality? while curiosity expands it. Suspending judgment until you have all the information from all sides. That's not weak. It takes courage to not know what's what, to figure it out like a detective. And what if you no longer need certainty to feel safe, and that you now trust the nuance? Children like to watch a movie and know someone is good and someone is bad. But as we get older, we see everything is yin and yang. There is good in the bad and bad in the good, and everything in between. And allow yourself to see the nuance, the shades of grey. And what if in those shades you find the balance? And instead of right or wrong, what if you look for emotional payoffs, intrigue, interest, fun, excitement, instead of good or bad, opportunities to learn? So now let this truth settle deeply. You are not worse off because of that relationship. You are much, much wiser because of it. Not hardened, not closed, but certainly more discerning. You understand yourself more clearly now, and you recognize emotional patterns sooner. And you know what alignment feels like in your body. And what if that relationship didn't take something from you? What if it refined you? And as all of this wisdom plus more integrates, you may notice a natural easing, loosening, releasing, not forgetting and not erasing, simply releasing what no longer needs to be carried. Feel that sense of detachment. The emotional charge dissolves. The attachment detaches, and the past becomes the past. It no longer pulls at you, no longer asks for your attention. The past has already given you what you needed, an opportunity to reflect, to refine, to evolve. And all of that is behind you in your past. But now think about your future. And not just any future, but a desirable future. And when you think about that desirable future, maybe you see a desirable future where all the lessons from the past have been learned. Maybe there is more of an ease and acceptance, a curiosity. And I want you to think maybe 1 or 2 years further into the future. And notice when you think of that version of you, how different it seems you are then. Calmer perhaps, more grounded, more trusting of yourself. And maybe that version of you feels less compulsions, not needing to rush, not needing to assume. You seem to have broken free of old patterns, And see that version of you pausing, sensing, evaluating the nuances, the shades of grey, the context. And maybe in that future, you are receptive to a relationship without needing a relationship. I want you to see that future version of you seeming more balanced, more open, more at ease within your own skin. And that future version of you isn't looking for certainty and guarantees. That future version is looking for synergy, compatibility, empathy, connection and resonance. And you recognize it easily. This future version of you does not lower your standards to find someone that may be interested. That future version of you holds higher standards. And I want you to feel an amplification of appreciation spreading through you. Appreciation for your resilience, for your growth, for the way you turned experience into wisdom. You can even feel proud, not because everything was perfect, but because you adapted and you evolved. And whether it's now or soon, you will trust yourself. More and more, trust your judgment and trust your ability to choose well. And the idea of love or connection, companionship feels lighter, safer, more natural, because it begins with you. Nobody can love you more than you love yourself. The next few days and weeks and maybe even months is a mission of self-love, of kindness, of acceptance, of encouragement. And the more love you show to yourself, the more you are training your unconscious as to what kind of love you desire. I want you to think of a moment that hasn't happened yet. That when that moment happens, everything from the past suddenly makes sense. You needed the past to create the future. And as you hold that idea, it's time to leave this place. But you leave with those conflicted parts working in harmony, extracting all the wisdom from the past to be more discerning, open, and understanding in your future, to unleash any frustration or regrets into empowering self-love, self-respect, and kindness for yourself. But let's float back now to the present. Take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. Wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes. Connect and calibrate into the here and the now. As I now count from 1 to 10 to awaken you. You will awaken feeling that the past is the past. You can learn from it without needing to live there anymore. Starting to count 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake. wide awake. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of The Hypnotist. If you've enjoyed this episode or got some value from it, please give it a 5-star rating and review. And maybe you know someone that would also benefit from this particular episode, in which case share the episode with them so they can also get the benefit too. And if you would like to listen to this episode where it's just the hypnosis, so no intro, no outro, no explanation, just the hypnosis and completely ad-free, there will be a link in the description where you can subscribe at a very low cost and only get access to the hypnosis. So if that's of interest, please check that out. Thank you again for being a regular listener of The Hypnotist, and I'll see you again soon for more.